you see the next film, it's much tighter. And it's the same character, Beryl, but now the factory is more electronic. They make televisions instead of cakes. This is lovely mince. This is a little sequence. He exists. He's based on a real person. Yes, I think that I am quite happy with my last film, because I do feel that I've sort of combined what I've learned about animation with the technique of drawing the way I enjoy drawing. So I think maybe with the last film I do feel I've put the two together, whereas, you know, when I show Girls' Night Out, my first film, visually it's painful for me to watch it. It's fun, you know, the story's fun, but visually I wouldn't say it was well done, you know, the visuals. Whereas the last film, I feel quite proud of the drawings. So so maybe it is more like moving illustration. Most of the characters in my films, they do exist in some form. They probably wouldn't recognise themselves, I hope, but I think they're based on people I know, or because I don't work alone. I work with my partner Les Mills, and he does the writing, and we work together as a team. And a lot of the latest characters are his family, but well, not all his family, but you know, people from his experience. So it's a sort of combination of people we both know, or people you sort of meet in passing, but who have a lasting, you think, my goodness, and then go home and quickly draw them. I suppose I like to use dialect. I like, well, I live in Wales, so the accent in Wales is very different from where I'm from, which is London. So I always like listening to different voices, and also I think having been brought up in Britain with the BBC and the radio, BBC4, everything is very English and very ordinary, and sort of it's called the BBC voice, and so I just want to. There's a lot of other accents outside of that one accent that you hear all the time, so it's nice to and it places it as well. It makes it more real for that area, perhaps more like documentary. I suppose I take filmmaking very seriously, and think that if you're going to make a film, then it should say something and it should mean something, and I suppose that's why it takes so long to make. So I mean, the last film, you know, took 5 years or something. It takes a long time, not just all the time drawing, but writing the script and getting the money and putting it all together. So you think, God, if you're going to spend all that time doing it, it needs to be more than just a gag, you know, a funny gag, or just lovely animation. The story's got to be a good story and say something. And I suppose with the last film, because it was all about film, it was interesting because when I was showing it to different people, lots of people didn't get some of the references, the film references, and so then you think, should I take that out? But Les was saying, why? Just because some people don't get it, why take it out? You know, you should aim for everybody. You know, not you don't want to dumb down a film just to make it understandable to everybody, because very often I watch films and I have no idea what's going on, but they're still fascinating and still interesting, and they teach me something. So I suppose try and make it more complicated. So the next film's going to be really complicated. I mean, the future as it seems at the moment, animation is up and down, and it's very strange, and it changes all the time. At the moment, there seems to be so many more feature films being made, you know, animated features, whereas before that was sort of unheard of, except for the big American studios. But now, because of the lack of money for short films, because before in Britain we had, you know, the Channel 4, S4C, the Arts Council, and smaller arts schemes for more experimental films. But there isn't anything like that anymore.
but there is money for feature films, so there seems to be a lot of big feature films being made. Maybe they shouldn't actually be features, maybe they're really like short films but stretched because that's where the money is. But technology-wise, everything is changing all of the time. But I feel very optimistic about the future. I mean, personally, I still enjoy drawing and I love the act of drawing, but I also love what you can do then with that drawing when you put it into the computer and you can combine what the computer can do with, and just being able to combine the two is very exciting. And so for the next film that I'm doing, you know, I'm just going to explore that even more and exploit it. But I can't imagine how to make a feature, you know, because it's so long. You know, if 10 minutes takes 5 years, you know, you just got to do your maths and I'll be dead. So there won't be enough time to do it. So then you think, okay, so maybe I have to compromise and use a bigger team. But then you think, it's the drawing I love. So how could I possibly maintain that level of quality in the drawing with a big, huge team? It's easy with a small team, but with a big team, it's really hard. So then, is the story more important than the drawing? Which it probably is. It's probably just me wanting it to be, every frame to be lovely. Maybe as long as the story is good, I can compromise. So that's what we're trying to work out at the moment. Well, we know that the movie is about, it's another Beryl film, and she becomes an artist, a real artist, and she does a sort of installation. So it's all about her exploring the art world. But we introduce other characters like her children and her sister and some other strong characters. And we're playing with time as well, so there's flashbacks to her childhood and her relationship with her sister. But sort of underneath all of that, it's all about immortality and the fear of death and putting off death and what we do to try and avoid it. So it's a barrel of laughs. It will be funny. Well, I think I'm a bit of a split personality in that I am quite serious and quite political, but not active. You know, I do have strong opinions about what's right and what's wrong and politics. But I also really enjoy making people laugh. And I think animation is a great way of putting those two things together, because you can get a message across, because everybody loves animation. You know, you can sit people in front of an animated film and instantly they're watching, you know, we all turn into children, you know, everybody finds it magical. So you think, ha ha ha. So you have your audience and you can make them laugh. And once you've got your audience laughing, they're with you, you know, they're following the film, they're open for everything that's going to happen. So it is animation, and comedy is a great vehicle for being able to say something a little bit more serious. Britannia is actually is probably my favourite film, because I think that it works very well for a 5-minute film, and the pacing in it is quite nice, and the drawing and everything. So I'm quite proud of that film, and I think it works quite well. It was very hard to make because it was much bigger. It was much bigger and much angrier, but I had lots of advice, and Claire Kitson from Channel 4 saw it, because Channel 4 put money in, and she said it's too much, you know, it has to be much simpler. And I couldn't make it much simpler. I couldn't work out, because it's such a big subject. And we met with a political cartoonist called Steve Bell, and he does cartoons in the Guardian newspaper in Britain, and he's very good, and he manages to sum up a situation, you know, in one little square, in one illustration. So we met with him, and I showed him the storyboard, which was, you know, about 100 pages. just to get his point of view and to see if he could think of a way of simplifying it. And he looked through it, and then he took out 2 sheets, and I thought he was going to take those out, and then he took out 2 and then put the others aside, and he said, "This is your story." And I went, you know. So what he had done is he had found the thread, you know, the very simple thread. And he said, that's your simple thread. You can add the other stuff if you have time, but this is your simple. And that was very useful, because sometimes when you're making a film, you can't see, you know, it's too much, you're too close. So to have an outsider say that was great. I thought I would have more criticism. I thought people would criticised me for making that film, but nobody said anything ever, which was a real surprise. They all sort of agreed, I think. You know, they all went, The only person who was upset by it was, I think he was Hungarian, and he had moved to Britain. He chose to live in Britain, and he told me that he thought he was offended by it, and said that it was very rude against the country that he had chosen as his home, and I could understand that, and the French thought it was fantastic.